found some ADHD posts on Reddit and I want to talk about them. So let's do that. So the first one here is I hate that high functioning ADHD representing us. So there's a lot going on here with, I would say, the spelling and stuff in it. So I'm going to do my best here. So it says, first of all, no offense to anyone, which is a classic way to start a post, I think. Just get that out there so you know that it's probably pretty good. So it says, this is just how things are, at least in my experience. I've noticed most ADHD content online is from people who are good at managing their symptoms and are high functioning. I didn't know you could be high functioning because they manage well enough to make contents and look good on camera. Yeah, because I always look fabulous. Hence why so many people self-diagnose themselves with ADHD these days. All right, so this seems kind of contradictory in the fact that it's saying that if you're high functioning and you look good, hence why some people self-diagnose, that's all you need. You just need to look good and be high functioning, and then you can self-diagnose yourself with ADHD, is what I'm getting so far. But I don't want to jump to conclusions. I know what I'm feeling isn't right, but I get so annoyed with my peers who said they have ADHD, in the past tense here, yet could constantly perform well and show up on time, get compliments for everything, while I'm over here taking a whole week to finish one batch of dishes. All right, so taking a whole week to finish one batch of dishes, I totally get that. That's something that I struggle with. Not necessarily dishes. I mean, I'll have them sit, clean in the dishwasher for like a couple days before I take them out. Mine's normally like laundry or getting things like piled up. I do that a lot, so I feel you on that. But the idea here that they constantly perform well, show up on time, and get compliments for everything, I feel like that's just a little bit over the top here, because I feel like even if you do have ADHD, like I am a person who likes to be on time. So I don't want to be late because I know I'll forget time. Time blindness is a real thing. It's just, well, how well you can actually manage that thing. Like some people are really good at it, some people aren't. So I don't see how that really makes you high functioning though. I don't get that. So it says, I'm sorry for being bitter, but I've coped with ADHD since I was a child, so I couldn't help seeing people normalize my disability into something that someone could have now. I couldn't help but wonder how different things would be if ADHD wasn't so misunderstood. I can agree with that. I think it is misunderstood even by the person writing this post. I feel like is something that they do or are doing currently. So, I mean, I got diagnosed when I was 26, so that was 10 years ago. So it's hard to know specifically how I was feeling when I was a kid about it because I didn't realize that I had it. So the thing here is I see this a lot when people normalize my disability. Well, I think it's just because people are becoming more aware about it. I mean, when I was a kid, you couldn't go, like, it wasn't something that your parents were like, oh, let's go get you tested for ADHD. It wasn't a thing like in the 90s and the 2000s. It just wasn't something that was happening. My sister got diagnosed, I think, like in 2004 or 5. And even then, it was still like kind of taboo. Like, oh, she's weird that she has ADHD. So by the time I was like in high school and, middle school, my parents weren't, I feel like my time passed, it wasn't like, oh, well, he's almost an adult, so he doesn't need it now. He doesn't need like help or medication. He's coping with it, which, I mean, I did cope for most of my life, up until this point. But I think the misunderstood part there is it just wasn't as popular. I think you can go that with like a lot of things, like autism. I think it's another one that just was under the radar. Like it's always been there. That's my opinion. And it's just becoming, people are more aware about it. And I think that's the same thing with ADHD, is that you realize that there's more like internal ADHD where you're more of like a internal thinker, or you have the hyperactivity, which is what a lot of people see. And I'm more of like the internal one. So, but I do agree with you on the misunderstood, but I don't think that really deals with the high functioning piece here, because it just seems like you're kind of attacking people who are probably on your side who do have ADHD. Because I don't know why it makes sense to be bragging about something you don't have. I'm not even, I don't think you're bragging. And people who are making videos, like for me, I'm trying to make videos when to show like some of my struggle, but also it takes a lot of effort. And just because I'm able to make videos and I'm not like very popular at making videos, I make them, doesn't mean that I'm not struggling in other areas. I feel like everyone has their struggle, especially when it comes with, this diagnosis, because there's always going to be like executive dysfunction in something like you don't want to start, which is what I see a lot of. So like I already mentioned, I'm not trying to offend anyone. So obviously the comments are pretty juicy. So it says, please stop taking my words as me trying to invalidate certain people. Well, I didn't really get the invalidation piece. I just think there's a lot of misunderstanding even in the own community, because I feel like there's a spectrum, I feel like, with ADHD. But high functioning, that word, it still gets me. I think that's probably what's getting other people. If anything, I just feel jealous. Okay? And that's wrong of me, which I already admit. I don't think there's anything wrong with being envious, or I don't know if that's the right word, of people who come off as being very confident or having themselves together. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So stop assuming things. All right, well, I feel like this is a great life lesson too for people. If you post on Reddit, you got to expect that you're going to have people who come at you, they agree with you, all kinds of things. So this is an interesting one to me. So let's look at the comments and kind of see what people are saying, because this was a very popular one like in the last 2 weeks. So it says, I promise you, if I had energy and willpower to create content spreading awareness, I would. So this is, a common thing that you'll see is like, oh, well, I feel like this person, Bionics, is trying to prove that they have ADHD because they can't do anything. Like, if I had the willpower. So once again, for instance, executive dysfunction, where you're like inability to like get things going, it really depends on that dopamine hit, because ADHD is about, how your dopamine is regulated. It's a dopamine disorder. So if it doesn't give you that high, or it doesn't give you that dopamine hit, you're not going to really want to do it. So like that's why things like doing the dishes are not so fun, because it's like, oh man, if you don't get the hit from having like a clean dishwasher or clean sink or having things put away, then that's not going to be something that you really want to do. Same thing goes with, I think, making videos. Like, sure, I'm sure this person has tons of experience that they could share with somebody else. Something valuable that they've learned from their journey with ADHD. Like, they want to spread awareness, but if video making just doesn't sound like something fun to do, or it's not gonna, give you that hit that you like, then it's not gonna change. So I still, once again, like, I don't think that's like an indicator that like people are like faking it, or that they're like frauds or whatever. So I keep thinking about making videos explaining some of the shit I have going on. I'm medicated. I forget to. Then remember a few months down the line. Mean to do it, forget. So this is like a good example of like object permanence a little bit here, where if you lose sight of it in a way, like the working memory, like you're like, oh, I have this great idea. But if you don't do it like right then, for me, like if I don't write it down, if I don't put it like on a sticky note, if I don't put it somewhere where I can see it, I will forget too. So I definitely pixie off here. I feel that, because yeah, you're like, oh, I wanted to make it, but then I kind of forgot about the idea. Yeah, I get that. So I kind of laugh on myself here. So same, literally me. I wanted to document all my little hobbies, take pics, and then forget. But I don't get the also medicated, because I'm medicated. So I don't get why. I don't understand what saying that at the end does. Like, I've been on Adderall for about 10 years, and to me it just I don't know, it doesn't, I've been on it so long, I don't know anything else. But I don't get why being medicated makes a difference here. Like, I don't understand. I guess they're kind of maybe saying that even though that they're medicated, that they still don't have the energy or the want, or the to get to it. I wanted to even just post a few things on here or on Facebook, like about being diagnosed and whatnot, but I can't even get my thoughts. So I'm agreeing. This is what I'm doing right now. Like, to me, like, it's so hard to do videos and things because you think, oh, I gotta have like a script, I gotta like remember things. But I think honestly, the best way to do it is just to do it. Like, even right here, right now, I just decided that I was gonna record me looking at Reddit posts. I didn't sit there and know that I know this isn't gonna be perfect. And I think perfectionism is a big step for some people with ADHD because if it's not done right or you get overwhelmed. Like, I get overwhelmed thinking, oh well, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes or it's not going to be perfect, so I don't even want to start. And I think getting over like that first 1% of doing something is super important, because if you can get past like that 1%, then more than likely you can make that video. And then once you make one video, you can make another. And I think that's what's been happening with me with like YouTube. Like, I started just posting like shorts and then I was like, oh well, and then I got into like this habit of doing it, and it's been becoming a lot easier for me because you have wins where you see the whole entire process. And when you can see the whole entire process, it makes it a little more doable. So sorry for that ramble. So just a couple more comments here. Keep thinking of doing so too, but then what if it doesn't get any attention? Okay, I get that. Like, I'll probably make this video and it might get like 10 views. So what? You still did it. I think it's what you're really trying to get out of it. Like, if you could have like 10 views on something and you get that one comment from somebody who says, wow, this is really helpful, I mean, that makes it all worth it, at least to me. Like, if you can help even one person, let's say one person watches your video and they like it and they got something valuable out of it, is that going to be enough? So for me, I feel like it is. Like, even if I don't even get that one person to like it, this has been really enjoyable for me just to do something I like to do. And it's been helping me learn more about myself by trying to help others, even if I don't get the reach. And so, and to be honest, the people who see it would probably be just us, because they like seeing pretty things they can relate to more than strangers. Okay, so I don't really get one of those. And to be honest, the people who see it would probably be just us. Well, who's us? People, like, I feel like if you're making videos for people with ADHD, like, that's who do you want people to see it? I don't know. So maybe I'm overlooking that, but overall, like, I don't get the pretty things. Like, this isn't pretty. I don't think I'm making this pretty. And that also relates to masking, which is another symptom of ADHD. People who can put on a show like, hey, the world's great, everything's going well. That's masking. So it takes masking to be able to put on videos. So that person who you think is perfect, who's making these great ADHD videos, is probably really internally struggling, or I mean, in something. Like, so that's normal. Just because they're masking in one thing doesn't mean that they're like, when they unmask and let things go, like it doesn't come out. So your struggle, or depending on what you struggle in, doesn't necessarily like define you. Okay, you being able to function isn't a proof of severity. So if you function less, it doesn't validate that you have like your ADHD. So if you're able to be successful in something, it doesn't invalidate it. I mean, everyone has things. So yeah. So that was post 1. So let's look at another one here. So it says, I'm so sick of people without ADHD constantly misunderstanding ADHD. So this is kind of relates to the other one in the fact that, you see a lot of people talk about misunderstanding it. And this just happens with people who have it and who don't. So it says, why are people without ADHD or very mild ADHD? I like how these two get grouped together because it kind of helps. It kind of feels like there's like a hit here at that. If you very mild, it's like high functioning again, or always trying to give the most stupid advice or try to give an opinion on ADHD. So I'm sorry. So if you have mild ADHD, you're not allowed to talk about like how your strategies or things that have helped you. And even if you don't have it, I don't think there's anything wrong with people giving advice. Like, my wife doesn't have ADHD and she's a very organized person, and her advice is generally helpful. like, because she's very, she's very productive in certain areas that can help me be better at organization and stuff that I can't do myself. So I don't think that's necessarily bad. And so it says, oh, just try a little harder or set an alarm. Okay, so I've talked about alarms in mine, and they're actually, to me, they're really helpful because of that time blindness thing, like being late, setting alarms. Because if you get really into something, like let's say like it's an hour before you have to be somewhere, and then you're like, oh, I'm just gonna play this video game for a few minutes, or I'm gonna read this book, and then it's 45 minutes later. So if you don't set those things, to me personally, I feel like it's on you. And I don't think there's any, like, setting an alarm isn't, a big task. Like, I can literally go to my watch and just say, set one for 15 minutes. Like, it's not that difficult to do. I don't think getting that type of advice is really that, controversial. I mean, if you're not willing to try it, then how can you really, like, shit on it, personally? Those are techniques which mostly work for people without ADHD who are a little disorganized. Yeah, I mean, they do work for people. I think they do work for neurotypical people, but I think they can also work for people who are like neurodivergent if they try them or use them effectively. Like alarms, or for me, like sticky notes, putting things visible that I can see. If it's visible, I don't lose it. I think that's such, that works with object permanence. If you can see it, it's still, in your mind, but as soon as it gets hidden, out of sight, out of mind, it works with that. Same thing with alarms. If you just rely on your brain to remember it's time to go, like, you're gonna fail a lot. Like, I have bought so many diaries. It says so many diaries are the most time I managed to use. One was once a month, and literally proud, to be honest. And alarms just piss me off. Okay, so that's just a personal opinion. I turn them off and don't even register that I have to do something. So to me, this reads that you're just not using them with a purpose. And also, I struggle with diaries or journals. I have so many for like work and things that I try to use daily. And to me, that I get that. I start and then I stop, and that's just something that it's not for me because I don't enjoy writing. I think that's too, like, if you enjoy writing, you might really love it. But the alarms to me is like, I would try setting one that's like a daily, like setting a reminder that's a daily reminder. So I think it takes like 18 days to build a habit. So I think not giving it a fair shake it's really hard to judge that if you're not really willing to give it a full try. It goes with anything. Then they always use ADHD when trying to talk about severities of disabilities or that it's not disabling. I hate when people say like they, like that. They always use it when trying to talk about severities. So it sounds like they're saying that people try to downplay it. I don't think people necessarily downplay it. I also remember seeing a girl say ADHD isn't disabling, and this is coming from someone who has severe ADHD. As one time I saw my doctor and he asked if I took my ADHD medication, and he was like, I hate this long sentence, like, we need to up the dose. Like, that doesn't mean your ADHD, this is one sentence, oh my goodness, doesn't mean your ADHD is severe, and severe ADHD is okay, sorry. This is taking me a second to understand what's happening here for my own ADHD. Okay. Severe. So something. Okay. So one person's opinion said it's not disabling. Okay. So that doesn't mean everybody. I'm sorry. I have to defend that person. And okay. So this isn't really giving a lot of information because, I mean, yeah, a dose could help. Or like if you take like extended release versus instant. I mean, I started at 26 taking instant, and I would crash by like 4 p.m. and I was like a teacher. So like it wasn't very helpful because it made me very jittery in the morning because it's an instant. The half-life's shorter and it's like more potent in the morning. But I went to like extended release, so it lasts throughout the day. I changed my dose to like 25 instead of like 15. And I felt like that was like right for me. So maybe they're just, certain medications are for everybody. Some people take Vyvanse, some people take Adderall, whatever, Ritalin. So I don't know, like, but yeah, so when people say severe ADHD, I'd like to know more about like what that means, because I feel like when I look at the symptoms of ADHD, I feel like I hit a lot of the categories, when I look at the key concepts of things like masking, dopamine dysregulation, like time blindness, rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria, where you feel like emotional pain. I feel like I have a lot of those that just can be very disabling too. So, but I mean, I also get from the side when people, like, if they're talking about it, but I feel like that goes for everybody. Like, I think that what we're talking about here is speaking for others yeah, it's hard, it's difficult, but for this situation, I can't really tell. It's just, there's a lot going on here. So moving on, it says, like, it's not just that I can't concentrate. Yeah, like in the most boring class. Okay, so there's a point here that, yeah, it's, you're not getting a dopamine hit from class. Yeah, okay. It does suck when you're, cleaning a toilet or, yeah, of course. It's going to hurt as much because you'd rather be doing something else or you're thinking about something else. I get that. I am a bit hyper, okay, and talkative, okay, and it can impact my personal hygiene, eating habits, sleep, okay. So what I'm reading here is that this person has a hobby, like maybe after work or school, that just really takes up a lot of their time, something that they really enjoy. So to me, when I see impact on personal hygiene, eating habits, that means that to me, it reads that they're doing something and forgetting to do those other things. So it's not like they're not just sitting there like a log. It sounds like they're doing something. They're just not putting in other priorities. And I think that's part too of being like kind of growing up and taking a little bit more accountability for things. And if you're struggling with personal hygiene, like sometimes you get so excited about something, you forget to eat, then you really, 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 really need to focus on having like a set schedule. I know that probably not one of the best pieces of advice for this person if you said that, because they're like, oh, you're just, you high functioner. But having a set schedule can be so helpful because your body gets into like a regular pattern. Like if you go to bed around the same time, you wake up around the same time, you're going to be hungry around the same time. Your body gets used to having a schedule and your body just does it automatically. So you don't have to think about it. And I think that's the key. Setting up a schedule that you don't have to think about all the time. So you're, brushing your teeth the same day, eating the same day, you're going to bed, you're going to work at the same time, you're taking the same, it works that way. But you have to really try to set that into place, and you have to give it time. You can't just, and the dopamine hit's not going to be there, I know that, but you have to be willing to kind of put your feet into the sand and really try it for at least 2 weeks. I mean, if it's really something that's really disabling to you, you really have to commit to trying it out for more than a week. So it says the people who represent ADHD usually online are high functioning, or people who self-diagnose. Maybe controversial, but I also think self-diagnosis has a negative impact, not because it's wrong necessarily, but because ADHD diagnostic criteria is meant to be used by professionals who have more training and understanding, because it's oversimplified, subjective, and brief, and so get negative attention surrounding. Okay, finally got the end of the sentence there. Okay, yeah, self-diagnosis is a concern. Yeah, but at the same time, like, if I'm making a video and someone thinks, man, that sounds like I have RSD, then there's no hurt into going to a doctor or a professional. Like, if someone thinks that they have it, then they should definitely, like, I think we should be promoting people to go get, evaluated. Instead of being like, I'm tired of people pretending. Well, I feel like we should be promoting going and getting resources. Like, I originally went in 2016 for depression, and I found out that it wasn't depression. It was my ADHD causing that, because that was like an indicator. And then, I got tested and I was like, oh, well, this is it. And it started to make more sense. So people who were diagnosing themselves, I think that's a great first step even for them. And I don't think that we should be necessarily, I don't think we need to be promoting it, but I don't think we need to be like shitting on it either, because I think people need just to seek, professional help, kind of what they're saying here. But I don't like that we're like lumping in very high functioning or people who diagnose. Like, that seems really shitty for the people who have ADHD, like myself. I don't think that you necessarily have to lump them in with people who maybe aren't like actually like professionally diagnosed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of a slap in the face, because once again, high functioning is like kind of, to me, like a controversial term. Like, that can be masking. Like, you can pretend that you're okay, and that goes in for a lot of other disorders. Like, pretending that you're fine, everything's fine. Like, that can be emotional dysregulation when you're sad and you're saying, I'm okay. That's emotional dysregulation. And like, I can sit here and be like, I'm so happy today, and be bullshitting you into this camera. And then I could be a mess, or I pretend that everything's neat and orderly, and then I have like a 3 pizza boxes and it's a shit thing all over the place. So saying high functioning, I think on the flip side, when you tell people that you're shitting on people for self-diagnosing, but then at the same time you're shitting on people by assuming that they're high functioning, which, once again, I just don't think it's more of like a representation problem here. And I don't necessarily think that it minimizes other people's struggles. I just, it seems like we're a battle from the inside. I don't know. And the you people can't do anything. Maybe I'm just being too woke, but it's just ableist. And I feel like that's the opposite of ableism, but maybe I'm probably wrong on that. And the you people can't do anything. Maybe I'm being too woke, but it's just ableist. I don't even know what that means. And the you people can't do anything. Who's telling people you can't do anything? Like, I don't understand. Like, do you people go out there and just tell people, like, yeah, you suck, you can't do anything? No, I don't think that's something that actually really happens, and it doesn't make any sense in this post. And ADHD is constantly being used as a joke. You know what? I've posted some shorts, like kind of making light of my ADHD, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it's the butt of a joke to me. Like, oh, it's just my ADHD or whatever. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think you're more upset with people who might be faking ADHD and saying, oh, this is my ADHD, and they don't have it. But you're not really saying that in this post. Like, there's like an underlier there, but I don't think there's anything wrong with like having some humor in yourself, because if it's your personal experience, you're allowed to do whatever like the hell you want. If you want to make light of like your personal issues, like, so be it. Like, I don't think that stops you. I don't think it makes it any less serious, at least in my opinion. And it just says, I wish people could spend a day with ADHD trying to do everything they wanted to. Well, that's your problem, I think. I wish I could do everything I wanted to in a day. I mean, but there's really only like 24 hours of them, and if you're sleeping, that's like 16 left over, and then you got like 12 after, all kinds of things. It's impossible to do everything that you want to do in a day. And yeah, you definitely pass the test that you have it, because when you think that's like definitely a sign that you get overwhelmed, and I get that there's so much to do. But yeah, like, what I'm learning based on mine, and like, if you really dig into like your symptoms, or like the things that you go over, if you start recognizing that you have, like, you go like working memory, like, you realize that if it's not in front of you, you forget it, like, or you have the dysfunction, I think it makes it easier to start doing things. Like, I know that I can't do everything today, but I need to try to do something. Like, I need to move, and then maybe it will get better. And I think, that comes with time and maturity, and I think just living, that you learn to recognize, what you can get done in a day. And I know that, time blindness, you think 16, 17 hours that you're awake, maybe that's a lot of time, and it really isn't when time gets away from you. So, but I don't think, that's a great argument that you just wish people would, if they could trying to do everything they want to, because I feel like that relates to everybody else too. Like, if that you're just neurotypical, like, you want to be able to do everything you want to as well, but maybe like you can't either because you're tired or you're depressed. That doesn't just solely lay on the shoulder of people with ADHD. Just trying to be like the devil's advocate here. And the difference between laziness and ADHD is when you are lazy, you don't want to do something. But with ADHD, you want to, but it takes so much energy and effort. Not all the time. Sometimes it's easy. Like, if I were to do everything that I truly wanted to do, like if I really wanted to like go, like play baseball or snowboarding or something I really wanted to do, like it wouldn't be hard to do. But yes, it does take a lot of energy for things you don't want to do. Yeah, I get that. And I emphasize with you that it does take a lot of effort. But yeah, the laziness thing, like, yeah, it's not a lazy disorder. It's just a dopamine dysregulation. Like, you can still do things generally that you like to do. Like, you still want to, like, you do, when you say you not want to do anything all day, you probably ended up doing something. You just, like, even if you like watch TV all day, you still did something, and it's probably something you enjoyed. Like, you watched shows that you liked, you got dopamine hits off it, so you still did something that you wanted to do. But getting over that overwhelming part, I think it's just doing small chunks, breaking it up into smaller pieces. Like, I use the 2-minute rule. If I can do it in 2 minutes, I just do it now. So like, when my dog's water bowl's empty, I see it and I know it takes less than 2 minutes to do. I just do it right then. I don't think about it. I just do it. So I go by that rule. Like, anything that takes less than 2 minutes, I just do it right then and there. And I think those types of strategies can be really helpful, honestly, but you got to be willing to try them. And I'm thinking that's like what I'm learning from people is like, how much are you willing to try? Are you just using it as like a crutch? Like, oh, well, I have executive dysfunction, I have emotional dysregulation. Like, oh, I'm tired of people talking, like being successful with it. Well, what have you tried? Like, have you tried any of like the strategies to help with those specific things? Are you trying to, like, today I'm trying to reorganize my pantry so I don't forget that I have, 2-month-old stale potato chips in there anymore, that the bag is open. Like, I'm trying to better myself by making my house more ADHD friendly, making things more visible so I don't lose them. And I mean, I'm 36 and I'm still learning. I don't know how old you are, but I think you need to really try to put in some strategies, because I don't think you can shit on anything that people say if you aren't willing to try. And you can't be like, oh, well, it takes a lot of energy just to try. Well, start with 2 minutes. If you watch this, you could have done 6 tasks by now, or 7 tasks based on the 2 minutes. I mean, it's as simple as that. And you'll get a dopamine hit off of it. If you take like something like, oh, I gotta fold that t-shirt away or something, after you do it, you're going to feel better, and it's going to give you a little bit of a dopamine kick. That's just the way it is. Like, so we'll read a couple comments here. So many don't understand ADHD, even the name. ADHD doesn't really hit on how much of your life is affected by this thing. I don't even understand this comment. I don't understand it. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's an attention deficit. So, that's part of it. Yeah, you lose your attention. Hyperactivity, that's one of the symptoms of ADHD. That's why it's in the name. How much of your life is affected? Yeah, well, then I don't know I don't really know how to speak to these people, because I think it could be just, I think really, honestly, it's with your age. Like, I feel like I can just see these posts and kind of guess how old you are and like how long that you've been having ADHD, because I feel like the older you get, the more you start to understand how your body works. And that goes with anything, how much you can like work out, how much you can eat, all those things. And ADHD is the same way. You got to treat it almost like a muscle. Like, if you know that you're hyperactive, how can you use that to your advantage? Like, if you're passionate about something, how can you take that passion or that high and kind of put it into somewhere else? Like, make your life easier. It's also just wrong. If anything, ADHD should stand for attention dysregulation. So this person gets it. Yeah, emotional dysregulation. Okay, hyperactivity disorder. So, yeah, I think most people who don't have it don't get the emotional piece, and I think that's why a lot of people in adulthood get diagnosed, because they don't really understand how emotional dysregulation works in ADHD. And you see it in these posts. I see a lot of emotion in these two posts, like kind of some sadness, which would be more accurate. So blah 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 blah. And then you have these people who are like, I think hyperactivity should be removed. I don't think hyperactivity should be removed, because it's still a very, I still think it's a big part of ADHD. Not everybody has that part. Not everybody's hyperactive. Like, I have like my own like fidget spinners and things that help me, with it. But there is a lot of inattentive. But I think what people, in like what I'm seeing here, is that they're tired of people thinking that hyperactivity is you're jittery. Like, yeah, I get that. But why does it matter, like what everyone else kind of thinks at the same time? I mean, I don't know why we're dying like on this hill here a little bit about this. So here we get more about the hyperactive and ADHD and attentive problems. Yeah. So the thing is, like, might not realize it, but the inattentiveness, there's still hyperactivity in that. When you're in your head, you're being hyperactive. It's just not. It's called inattentiveness because it's like inside. I mean, that's how I relay it. So you're still hyperactive. If your brain is thinking about 1,000 things at once, that's still hyperactivity. Not if you move around, like that's hyperactivity. If you fidget, hyperactivity. That's why it's called attention hyperactive, because it's where your attention goes, whether it's in your fingers, whether it's you walking around, you thinking about WWE superstars from the 90s. I don't know. Like, I don't know when that came to my head. So it's part of it. But trying to, mine is I just sit in my head, and that's where you see, without the hyperactivity is what brings in the other, I think, pieces, like where you see the executive function. So I feel like people in this comments are just kind of arguing about the same thing. Like, they're not, I don't know if this is necessarily productive. So yeah, it's been really, really great. So I want to look at one more. So I want to look at one more here. It says, can non-ADHD people comprehend the lifelong battle of I didn't do anything today? All right, so I kind of briefly talked about this in the last one. When you say you didn't do anything today, I think you really have to be literal about this, because to me, if you didn't do anything that day, it's, that you literally just sat in one spot and didn't eat, didn't do. And I think the most people who say that are over exaggerating. They don't tell you the details. Like, yes, I'm like, what did you do at 1 p.m.? Like, well, I was just watching like reruns. Well, that was something. It still is something. And I think it's important to mention that it is still something. Okay, not I didn't get any work done today. Not I rested today. Not I didn't do anything flash today. Not I didn't. Oh gosh, I didn't do what I planned today. I didn't do anything. I didn't form or execute any plans. Okay, so this is someone, they're kind of giving me kind of a hint to what they mean by doing something. To them, doing something is that they had maybe like an event, like a goal for the day. Like, they didn't complete any goals for the day. That's different than doing things. Didn't follow any impulses. Okay, so I don't know necessarily like what that means. I didn't have any differentiated chapters. So I feel like we're getting into the weeds in our words here. Like, I didn't have any differentiated chapters. Okay, so were we reading? So to me, like, they just did the same thing all day. So to me, the fact that there's just one chapter still means that you did something. I get what they're saying, but I also get why people might not understand it. So I didn't rest or do chores or work or entertain myself. It's not an issue of self-esteem. I solved most of my depression years ago. Okay. I solved a little more of the puzzle when I found out I had ADHD this semester. The fact remains that I didn't do anything today. It's an honest, factual representation of a lot of my days, and at least 50% true for most of them where it isn't. See, what's the up with the wordplay here? It is at least 50% true for most of them where it isn't 100% true. That sounds kind of like a Maddenism here. So, I mean, I don't think we needed 100% true. We could have just said it's at least 50% true. Because if it's at least 50% true, then like, it still hits the same point. I don't know. It just seemed like weird word salad here. And this has been the status quo for the majority of my life. So, but here's the thing. I don't want to be like an asshole about it, but it says I didn't do anything today. Well, they wrote this post. They did something. They were able to get out their laptop or their phone, and they took the time to write a Reddit post about this. So they did do something. And if you were my pal, my friend, I would try to celebrate that you did do something. We just got to reframe the things that we're doing. Like we have to go a little bit smaller. I feel like, and maybe we'll put it more under the microscope of what those actions actually are, because we wrote this post, so we can't really say we didn't do anything. You practiced your writing, you shared your feelings to other people. I think that's what you did today, 7 days ago. And I think reframing that can be helpful, because you're like, wow, I shared, and you got 103 people. Not saying it was 103 people that commented on this, but there was 103 comments on this. So not only did you share how you were feeling with other people, you talked to other people about it. So you did something this day. Okay? And I hope that's what the comments say. So it says, I've realized that a lot of people without ADHD seem to count existing as doing something. Okay? And they also don't feel any guilt over existing without function. I need to work on that. So it sounds like they're trying to give like some advice here. But I mean, I want to say that I do have ADHD and I gave the same advice. So I think we can just say a lot of people count existing as doing something. I don't think this is just exclusive to people without it. I think it's a frame of mind. And you also don't feel guilt over existing. Yeah, once again, I think this is still people. I think anybody can feel guilty without doing anything, and also feel not guilty for not doing anything. But I like the reflection here, and then like the self-reflection, like I need to work on that. Yeah, so that frame of mind is super important. That it's still existing. Yes, the more I observe different people, the more I realize that while ADHD is certainly a disability, the severity of the suffering is less directly linked to the severity of the symptoms than I thought. Yeah, more wordplay here. It seems that coping strategies play a major role. They do. Negative self-talk, that's that RSD stuff. The more that you don't, it's actually kind of like the opposite. The more you don't like give yourself positive self-talk, the more harmful it is, or the more you forget yourself. Not even the negative self-talk. If you just like, let's say you're trying to run like a marathon in 3 months, and then like you don't like keep up with like your progress, like telling, oh man, I ran today, I did a really good job, but you just kind of go through the motions, you're going to lose track of what you're trying to be or who you are. Like if you're a marathon runner and you don't tell yourself that, you don't reiterate that, you're going to lose your self-awareness. And I think that can make it worse, honestly. So depression comes with it. That's part of the emotional dysregulation. Yeah, they can be debilitating, and maybe they can be definitely the most for some people, and they don't even realize it. And if you expect things from yourself that you simply cannot do, then punish yourself for not being up for the arbitrary standard. You're throwing away I'm losing myself. Like, I lost this post. So I think it's saying don't be hard on yourself. I feel like you're going to lose people when you're trying to give advice, just FYI, when you talk like this. So many of us grow up being constantly criticized by everyone around us and then end up with an inner critic that's buried deep. So what I'm hearing or seeing here is that we get criticized by others and we also criticize ourselves. Why are we talking so cryptically? But I think that's roughly par for the course with childhood onset disorders. So we're saying that this is another diss, I feel like, or another dig at people who get it like in adulthood or self-diagnosed right here. The trauma of existing with them can easily end up worse than the disorder itself. Okay, growing up with parents, okay, so we have backgrounds with our family. Yeah, that can be hurtful even more. So this one person says therapy. Yeah, that could be really helpful because it can be more than just outside of like the diagnosis. So I think that's the thing for a person without ADHD. Not doing anything, lounging around, staring into space, whatever, is restful and rejuvenating. When a person with ADHD does that, we're generally attempting and failing to fight it, which means it wasn't restful. I get it. I agree and I disagree. I feel like some days, like when it's like a Sunday, that's all I want to do. Like my emotional social bucket is drained because I'm also very introverted. So staring at TV and maybe just like watching YouTube or reruns of like The Office is rejuvenating to me. And I think the problem here is that we're thinking that there are two buckets here of people, that are people without and people with, and that they're looking at this like a Venn diagram that there's no like inner overlap. Like I'm seeing without and with, and that people do this with and people do this without. And that's, I think, a terrible way to think about it because there is overlapping. Like that's the problem. I think we're trying to separate ourselves too much into these two buckets. And I don't think that's helpful because I think as soon as you see that the buckets overlap, and that's probably why a lot of people without ADHD give advice, because we don't want to also, I don't think we want to get into ourselves to the point where we're thinking, oh, well, this is just our experience in ADHD. Like your experience is not the same. Well, they can be the same. People can still feel that way. People still get depression even though they don't have ADHD. And people with ADHD get depression without, being diagnosed depressed. They overlap. I mean, that's just reality. Things like that overlap. So they were generally attempting and failing. So they're saying like most people with ADHD they're trying to fight it. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, this is very specific to people. I think rewording it, the people who suffer with executive dysfunction are trying to fight it. Because like if you're sitting there like really trying to do something, well, it just depends on what you're trying to do. So this person, they just got diagnosed, do anything for a day, taking a rest day, didn't realize that was an ADHD thing. Yeah, well, I think there's other people that I know that I'm not going to say that have this same setup and they don't have ADHD. Like, yes, it is a symptom of it, but I don't necessarily think that that's just like a crutch for it either. And I don't think you have to feel guilty because once again, I think it's just a reframing when you say I didn't do anything that day. I think it's having this person up here. I think that's probably why it's one of the top ones is talking, positive self-talk, telling yourself, yeah, I'm writing this post. I'm sharing my thoughts. I'm putting myself out there. When you reframe it that way, it makes it feel a lot easier to handle and manage. Like, or you feel a little bit more proud about what you did. Like even if you just write down on a piece of paper, like even if you write down your plans for the day, that's still better than nothing. To me, I think that's still better than nothing. And the fact that you're willing to go on a website and share your thoughts and then have dialogue with people, you did something. You did it virtually, but it doesn't make any less than talking to people face to face. And I think it's all about reframing. So I feel like I've just kind of rambled a little bit on this. So I just want to know, what you think is the most interesting across these. Like, what are you seeing in these that, the overlapping theme? So I think it's just really a misunderstanding. Like that's my biggest takeaway. I think there's a misunderstanding in how people think about themselves, what other people think about other people, about what it means to do something. I think that's the biggest piece. When you reframe what it means to actually do something or do anything, it changes the whole vibe. So I'd love to know if you drop in the comments, something that made you feel seen or what you would have said in the comments. Like, what's your thoughts? You can even, if you disagree with me, let me know what you think. Am I off, or are you on a similar track? So I'd love to know. And I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.